right, welcome back into the Red, Royal, and Blue podcast. This looks a little bit different. Not sitting at the desk. I'm in my comfy clothes, and I'm on a couch. And I think I just want to switch it up a little bit. Obviously, it's been a long time since I've made an episode. Had some struggles with the computer and downloading files and got flustered, and I stopped. But I want to get back into it. I enjoy it. But I want to do it a little bit differently. I kind of just want to just talk, not really dive so much into the stats and so structured, just kind of sit down and talk about whatever I feel like talking about. I love college football. It's one of my favorite things in this entire world. I just want to talk about it. I don't want to sit down and really have to think really hard about, what I want to say. I just want to sit down and talk about what's going on in college football, focusing obviously on the three schools that this channel was made for, but also just college football in general. Obviously a lot has happened since the last episode. BYU beats Utah in the Holy War, another classic. BYU makes a run to the conference championship in the middle of the week, preparing for the conference championship. They, hear that their coach is probably going to Penn State. Then the CEO of Crumble Cookies steps in and saves the day. So it's been a wild few weeks in college football. Utah had a great bounce back year after finishing 5-7 last year. They're 10-2 this year, going to the Las Vegas Bowl. And Utah State finishes 6-6, I believe. And Bronco Mendenhall's first season, they're going bowling, Idaho Potato Bowl. So playing Washington State, future Pac-12 matchup next year, by the way. All that went down, and the real drama of the college football playoff committee really happened. And I have obviously a lot of thoughts on what happened with the college football playoff. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm very, hit me very close to home, being a BYU fan. Still think that we got robbed, but I get it in the sense that, yes, we played Texas Tech twice and we got boat raced both times. I understand that. But the regular season has to matter, right? Like the regular season going 11-1, you have to get rewarded for that in some capacity other than the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Like the Pop-Tart Bowl is going to be great and fun, and it's going to be fun to watch. But that's not what we're playing for. Obviously, some teams, Notre Dame, doesn't want to play at all if they're not in the playoff. So I'm glad BYU didn't do that. That's just a whole other topic of Notre Dame. That's not a good look for Notre Dame. It's a really bad look. You feel for their players, you feel for their fans, and that was not the right way to handle that situation. I see their frustration, though. I do. And this playoff committee, this is an issue that I've seen for a while with this committee, and I see them make decisions on who they want in the playoff, and then they're going to find a way to justify it after they decide who they want. They wanted Alabama to be in. There's no way they could kick Alabama out. So what do? They barely beat Auburn, and Notre Dame throttles Stanford, and then Notre Dame drops a spot, and Alabama jumps them because the committee knows that they do not want Alabama out of the playoff. They don't want them out of the playoff. It doesn't matter if they're good or not. They're a good team. I'm not saying that they're not. But the logic of the committee makes zero sense. They come out and they say, well, they were up 17-0 at one point. Well, they blew the lead, and they could have lost if Auburn doesn't fumble the football. So they make that move just in case BYU wins the conference championship, because BYU is not in if they don't win the conference championship, which isn't how it should work. It's not how that's supposed to work. And then on top of all of that, BYU loses the conference championship, which last year they told you that the conference championship does not hurt you. You cannot be harmed from losing your conference championship game. But BYU gets dropped a spot, which moves Miami up to Notre Dame's level, which then they have to honor the head-to-head, so Miami gets in. But Alabama doesn't get punished. They got blown out in their conference championship game too, 28-7. So it's things like that that just need to be reevaluated. It's not a fair system. It's not a good way of handling it, and I don't have the perfect answer. Like it's not an easy fix because ESPN owns the rights to the CFP, and who else do they support and have contracts with? The SEC. So they're always going to push that narrative. The thing that drove me nuts the most, and not making the playoff sucks. That sucks. But the thing that made me the most upset is that in the graphics on the college football playoff selection shows, on the graphics, BYU is ranked number 11. They have number 9 Alabama's resume. They have number 10 Notre Dame's resume. They skip 11 BYU, and then they have number 12 Miami's resume. Just because they don't want to put BYU on there, because they can't justify it. Because BYU has a better resume, but they don't want people to know that. So BYU's resume isn't shown on the graphic, so it kind of gets swept under the rug. And on these selection shows, they don't even mention BYU. They don't even want to give them a thought because BYU's some LDS little school in Utah. Yeah, they're in the Big 12. Yeah, they went 11-1, but they can't beat any of the powerhouses that are in the playoff. No way. It doesn't make any sense. And I understand why Notre Dame is upset. I do. You're in the playoff firmly for the entire process. You're in the 9 spot, the entire process. And then the week before the championship games, you drop a spot, which puts you on the chopping block, which I'm sure is a rug pull. They weren't expecting that. They won the game that week by multiple scores, and Bama won by 7. So why are they getting switched? I understand the frustration. And then I also understand why the committee has to put Miami in if they're compared next to each other. Because Miami won the head-to-head. You have to honor the head-to-head. But the way that the committee did it is ridiculous. Miami had every chance to put Miami in all the rankings before the final one. They could have put them in there the second that they had the same record. But they didn't. And, from the first ranking to the last, neither team lost. So why is the ranking different? I don't understand it, and it's frustrating as a college football fan, as someone that loves college football. It's unfortunate to see the way that the playoff is run. Like if BYU is not in, fine. Like it is what it is. Like I get it, but there's got to be a better way to make these decisions. Like you have to apply the rules to everybody or nobody. You can't drop BYU for losing in the conference championship, but not move Alabama for losing in the conference championship. You can't. Every single team that played in the conference championship and lost dropped in the rankings, except for Alabama. So it doesn't make sense. And nobody remembers the Florida State loss week 1. Nobody remembers it. Florida State's not even going to a bowl game. And we just forget that happened. Like you lose early enough in the season and people forget. But then you're a team like BYU and you only lose to the number 4 team in the country. You did it twice and you got beat bad, but your only losses is the number 4 team in the country. And you have multiple wins of teams inside the top 20. One on the road. So it's upsetting. It's frustrating. I don't love the way that college football is going right now. The bowl games are becoming more and more irrelevant. Teams don't want to play in them. Notre Dame opted out. Baylor opted out. Kansas State opted out. Iowa State opted out. And there were like 4 or 5 more that opted out. Granted, a lot of the teams that opted out lost their head coach, but they got new ones. So you could have had time to practice with that new coach and get him a game before next season, but these teams don't want to do it, and it's sad. Bowl games are always exciting for me to watch. I thought it was fun to watch a game in January. I thought that was fun. It was cool. Watch a game on 23rd of December. It's a good time, but these teams don't want to do it anymore. And I understand when certain players opt out. I get it. You're going to the NFL, You don't want to risk hurting yourself for a game that doesn't matter in the long run. I get all that. I understand that. But whole teams opting out, especially Notre Dame. Notre Dame has no excuse. There's no excuse for what Notre Dame did. It's disgusting. It's pathetic. It's a really bad look, as I said earlier. It's the classic toddler thing. I didn't get what I want, so I'm gonna go stomp my feet and hide in the corner because I didn't get what I want. I didn't get my way, and that's just really upsetting. I've been a supporter of Notre Dame. My dad and I went out to Notre Dame, and when BYU played there, 2013 maybe. Really cool experience, really cool place, and I really enjoyed myself. And I've always been kind of a supporter of Notre Dame, but the way that they're acting is pitiful. It's embarrassing. It's lame. And that's the thing is they say that they're so much better than BYU and they deserve to be in the playoff. But here's your chance. Here's your chance. Go play. Show the committee they were wrong. But they don't want to. They didn't get what they want. So take my ball. I'm going home and I'm gonna go pout in the corner. Like that's not how things are supposed to go. And I think a lot of this is gonna happen more and more and more as we go on. I think that teams are gonna not play in their bowl games. It doesn't matter, so they're just not gonna play. And that's just how it goes. The bowl games are dying off, and that's sad, but it is what it is. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. Yeah, like it's a weird spot in the college football world right now. But what else do we got? BYU basketball's playing well. Number 10 in the country. They're playing tonight. It should be starting really soon, actually. They're playing Clemson tonight in Madison Square Garden. We'll see how that goes. AJ DeBon still looks like the real deal. Richie Saunders, Rob Wright, the big three, they're going off. Kiba Keita has been an animal, an absolute animal. He had a 21-point double-double. Who were they playing? I can't remember who they were playing. It was just recently, but it slipped my mind. But yeah, Utah State basketball looks good. They look really good. I'm sure there'll be a tournament team again this year. We'll see how basketball shapes out. But short episode, but I just wanted to get on here and, debut the new vibe for the podcast, I guess, the new style. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know how this is going to be received. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad. But, yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. Turn on the bell notifications. You can find this on YouTube and Spotify at the Red, Royal, and Blue Podcast. And we'll see you next time.